Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football from the latest Science District breakout stars and all the news in between. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Anthony.
How's it going, guys?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm not bad. We have some football to talk today.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Yeah, we do,
talk
actually.
about.
We're talking college football playoff rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Those came out yesterday. We're going to do our For Real and our Wide Left segments, followed by, this wonderful followed after this wonderful segment that we're going to get into in just a minute here. For Wide Left today, we have things along the lines of a flustered tight end in the AFC West.
Yes.
A stumbled kicker in the AFC North, and somebody who, in a sense, seemed to forget his own birthday.
You can say that
in,
pretty much.
The AFC East.
Yeah.
And then for real, we're going to talk about quarterbacks, teams, and
running backs.
And running backs. I was just saying, And we're going to do all that a little bit later, but first we're going to talk about the week 2 of the college football playoff rankings that came in. Technically week 11, but a second week that they've done the college football playoff rankings. So 1 through 3 is exactly the same, and I don't want to toot my own horn, Jeremiah, but I've called the top 6 list completely perfect the last 2 weeks. I said week 1 it was Bama, Clemson, Michigan. I said Texas A&M, Washington, Ohio State, and yesterday I told you on this show Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington State, Ohio, Louisville, and that, my friend, is what it is.
And I flip-flopped 4 and 5 in my rankings.
You did. You were close.
I really thought Ohio State was going to make that jump to 4 this week, but we're going to have to wait. Well, I wouldn't say we're going to have to wait, but it could happen by the season's end. But I'm not surprised Washington went to number 4 spot because, like you said, we talked about this yesterday, Alex. They are undefeated. Their schedule is slightly stronger than Michigan, which is something we haven't even thought about or talked about, and it was actually a really good point. So, now we got these 4-2 teams. I still think Washington is the weakest team out of the top 4.
But we've talked about that before, and actually I was listening to I think I was listening to Russillo. Russillo and I forget the ESPN
Cannell.
radio. Yeah, Russillo and Cannell. And they made a really good point. Of all 4 of these teams, at least the other 3 that Washington would have a chance to face, and I mentioned this in the sports show, I actually think that Alabama is the best case scenario for Washington to face. Alabama is a good defense with a very great defense with a team. Offense isn't amazing, right? And teams that used to beat them were mobile quarterbacks, and they got to the point where they just destroyed mobile quarterbacks. But Washington is the kind of team that's built in a sense to go toe-to-toe with Bama. Like LSU 10-0 this past weekend. Washington's offense is much better than LSU's, and their defense is very good. And the kind of quarterbacks that beat Bama now, or at least play Bama well, seeing as Bama hasn't lost for a while, are the kind that are mobile in the pocket, but not our run-first quarterbacks. And Jake Browning has shown he's mobile enough in the pocket, but man, does he have a hose. So I think right now, if the season was to end, I think Washington would be more than comfortable going to play Alabama. Of course, they're not going to be like, I don't want to play Bama, no one's ever going to say that.
No one's going to do that.
But
you can't go into a game,
exactly.
Alabama.
I think, say they were to move into 3, say Michigan, say Michigan loses or something, and Ohio State jumps to 4, and then they go to 3. I think that would be more tough for them to play Clemson. I think Clemson's a team, much like Ben made a point, they're a lot like teams that they see in the Pac-12 at more of a spread offense, but I think they have more weapons to defeat them. I think Washington would be better served to play Michigan or Bama. So whether or not they're weak in the top 4, I agree they're probably the weakest in the sense of how strong the other 3 are. Not that Washington is weak. I think that they're probably in the best position to play a team like Bama or Michigan as it stands currently. What are you thinking over there, Anthony?
So basically you have the top 4 right now. Assuming they all went out, they're going to be the same because you can have a team 1 loss beat a team that's with 0 losses, and you have the chance of the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, all winners of their conference getting in there. The only, you're not going to have, say, Michigan and Ohio State, both of them make the top 4 because one of them obviously is not going to win the Big Ten. When it comes to something like that, you're not going to have something like a Texas A&M who didn't win the SEC getting up there. Like, you basically, the only other teams that are going to have a chance is Ohio State if they beat Michigan, then Michigan drops out, or Louisville if something goes kind of weird. Above that, Wisconsin already has 2 losses. A&M, Auburn, Penn State, Oklahoma, Colorado, all those teams all have 2 losses. They don't really have a chance to get into the top 4. And once you figure out that, assuming Washington wins out, they're going to be in the top 4, like you said, you start looking at the people that they're going to face, be it Alabama or Clemson. You have the real possibility of it being a repeat of the national championship last year with Alabama and Clemson. Clemson has really good wins on their resume. They have, the 2 times they beat teams that were ranked in Louisville and Florida State. They won them both, closely, but still got a win. They beat Auburn in the beginning of the year 19-13. And every other win you have is pretty much a blowout for Clemson, be it 54-0 to Syracuse or 59-0 to South Carolina State. Boston College, you beat 56-10. You have pretty dominant wins for them. You would assume, with Washington, I think what happened with them is they got yelled at, basically, or that they got yelled at. The committee got yelled at for not having them in the top 4, for having Texas A&M in there, and everyone else that was the committee was kind of like, why did you do that? It seems weird. Like, what are you doing with that? And the Texas A&M kind of showed they weren't kind of worthy with that, losing. And then Washington was like, okay, you want us to win? You want us to win big? All right, cool, we got you. They beat Cal by a lot of points, and we saw Cal was able to put up a lot of points, and they only scored 27 but still gave up 60-plus points. So you had the thing where you got that not only a win but like a good win, like a win that helps the committee feel like, oh, okay, cool, we like you, which is always basically just like beauty points. Basically, it's just like, oh, they look good. Oh, they look even better now because if they had beaten Cal, say, 45 to 40 or something like that, then it wouldn't have been the same kind of thing. They'd have been like, well, I don't know if they're still good, and they still may not be in the top 5. And that may have been your thing, Jeremiah. They may have had Ohio State in the top 4 because honestly, none of these things really matter until the last one. The last one's the only one that actually matters. This is all of us just like kind of yelling like, oh, this seems weird. And you have time for it to shake out because if Michigan loses next week, they're not in the top 4. And then if Michigan beats Ohio State, they're back in the top 4. Like, it's things that just kind of move around and look weird until the final week.
Yeah, and then Washington's schedule actually got
we mentioned
a little tougher now.
It's definitely probably the toughest part of their schedule now.
USC's ranked now.
5 straight wins. They are
Yes,
ranked at
they're
20,
ranked.
even though I don't understand how they jump. And this isn't bias. This is literally an understanding.
Yeah, no, they
jump.
weren't ranked last week, and
Yeah.
now all of a sudden
They're
ranked.
20
And
and they're over.
I understand why, but
I understand why, but I don't see how you can put them above Washington State, who's 7-2, undefeated in conference play, a better overall record in that sense to a USC team that's won 5 straight. Well, Washington State's won 6 straight,
Right.
And again in the conference they're only second to the 4th team in the nation. A team that's been ranked at 25. It's okay. I don't mind. It's not like these teams are going to get to the playoff rankings in the sense of a significant playoff berth. But I just don't understand the idea of the criteria there that puts them at 20 as opposed to, even Boise State where they're sitting, ahead of them and Washington State and even Western Michigan. Yeah, strength of who they're playing, but still, Washington. USC hasn't had like the most amazing wins. They just beat Oregon. So it's just weird to me that's how. I don't really mind. I'm not saying that as a Washington State fan or anything like that in that sense. I just don't get the criteria that jumps them to that. It's just weird to me.
It's probably just USC, honestly.
It is literally probably the fact that it's USC.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
If they can find a reason for them to get in the top 25, they're going to do it.
Because they say when college football has USC in the top in its rankings, it's a better game or whatever. That's some kind of weird old saying. I don't get it.
Yeah, like when USC is good, then college football is
it's
good.
like I told you with the Raiders.
It's kind of like what they're,
the old saying, when the Raiders are good, the NFL's better. Yeah. It's the same thing. When those great, historical teams are good, when USC's good, Stanford, Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, all those good, young, older, big-time schools, when they're good, it's more impressive to watch. So.
And Washington State doesn't have that history. They have a coach in Mike Leach who we all know about, but then to be fair, he got fired at Texas Tech for kind of weird things, and he's kind of like a weird dude to begin with.
He is a very weird guy. Having been a fan of Washington State for about 6 years now because my brother went to school there, and I didn't get to go to normal college, so I didn't have that football atmosphere of college football. So I lived it through him in that sense. He is a very weird man.
Mm-hmm.
He's very quiet. He's very soft spoken. He doesn't say much. He's definitely a weird guy.
Unless he's ripping somebody, he doesn't care about ripping some people sometimes.
Well, if he has to, like he talked about, I forget there was a controversy in one of their games earlier this year that didn't get a call or something, and he wasn't happy about it, something like that.
Yeah,
but we're not talking about.
I kind of think the reason why Washington State is kind of so far back is because you got to think about the 2 losses.
Well, I get
Eastern
I get that,
Washington
and
and
they were at
State.
25. I mean, they weren't beating significantly great teams. So I don't mean like why did they only move up to 23. I don't mind that. I just get how USC just jumped up to 20.
Well, I think that you kind of have to take that loss to Eastern Washington into account.
Yeah, even though Eastern Washington's a really good FCS
they are.
team.
They're one of the best.
Probably the best.
They're probably top 25 program in the FCS.
And then losing to Boise State, who's 22 right now, that makes that a little stronger. Again, I'm not saying like Washington State should be higher. I think they're right where they should be. I mainly mean USC being where they are.
Right.
It's just weird. The criteria for a lot of these things are weird to me. It's just weird, Jeremiah.
It's always weird.
That's college football for you.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll let you know next week, of course, when this gets changed. As it stands now, Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, Washington, and the first 2 out will be Ohio State and Louisville. It's pretty intense. It's where it's getting to. Can't wait.
Yeah, we got about 3 weeks left.
About 3-4 weeks in terms of how these get finalized.
Yeah.
And bowl games start popping up in terms of their schedule. So I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm fine with whatever happens because, again, I'm a Washington State fan. They're going to get a bowl game no matter what, so I'm fine. I would love if they beat Washington because a lot of us here might, we have the potential of maybe going to the Pac-12 championship game. In a perfect scenario that I get to go, we get to go, it could be them playing. So that'd be rad. You know what I mean? But anyways, either way, we might get to go to that one, and we'll get to see potentially a top 4 team in the nation play.
So you tell me there's no chance at all Western Michigan gets a chance at the playoffs?
No, man. Western Michigan, they won last night, but they beat.
They're like early on Boise State where they didn't get any love.
They beat Kent State last night. At one point they were losing. They ended up winning 37-21. It was like a monsoon of rain. The Kent State quarterback goes to throw the ball. And he throws a full throwing motion, but the ball goes up like a punt.
Right.
It was really weird. Yeah, he did it, and immediately he goes, oh, God, he starts running after it. But, I mean, that was such a weak win last night against Kent State. Do you know what Kent State's mascot or their team name is?
Dang, I don't have it on top of my head.
The Kent State Golden Flashes.
What does that mean?
Really?
Like the Flash, like superhero? Like what is that? I don't know
That's
what that
they
means.
come up with.
Yeah, Kent State Golden Flashes.
There's a.
I mean, there's banana slugs. There's a lot of things.
There's the Green Flash, the brewery in San Diego.
Right.
Well, I think
that.
that's based off of that. I think that somebody tried to be cute with that, with the lights thing, the Northern Lights or whatever that is. No, they have a mascot. It's literally like a lightning bolt that goes into a bird's face, sort of. Their mascot, I don't know. Yeah, it's Flash the Golden Eagle.
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know.
I think
there's a lot weird about that school.
I think there's a lot of history at that school, but I don't want to get into that right now.
There's a lot of history at that school, but the most significant player to come out since Antonio Gates was Dree Archer. So,
and not only that, I think Nick Saban spent some time there too.
Yeah, so Jack Lambert, all-time Steeler great, played there. Antonio Gates, Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, Thurman Munson, and then former Giants second baseman of the MLB, Emmanuel Burris, played there also. But since then, the most significant player to come out, and significant because what he did at the combine in terms of his speed, was Dree Archer. So nothing that special. Weird team, but that strength of that loss, no way. Your joke is even more of a joke.
I know. It was a joke.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to go ahead and take a break and come back. We're going to do our first segment of our wonderful Wednesday segments, and that is For Real. In just a moment here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, and we're going to start with, for real, I'm going to actually start that, and by doing so, I'm going to talk about Jake Browning, quarterback of the Washington Huskies. The man is playing it lights out. I would say if there wasn't somebody over in Louisville named Lamar Jackson, Jake Browning would be the head of the Heisman pack in terms of candidates. He currently on the year has 34 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Having thrown for 2,273 yards, the man is completing 67.7% of his passes this year. He's averaging 10 yards a pass, and he's only been sacked 15 times. He is playing lights out. He threw 10 interceptions last year to only 3 this year. Not to mention he only threw 16 touchdown passes to more than double that now at 34. I feel like it's a very rhetorical question, but is Jake Browning for real?
I mean, yeah, clearly
he's been for real for like September.
He's been for real since like July.
Exactly.
Since last year.
He's been for real when he was playing here at Folsom.
Yeah, I say, the thing that bothered me so much is I wanted him to go to Washington State so bad. You know, he's from Folsom, so I knew who he was. Having living here just outside Sacramento. For those listeners who don't know that we do that because we're just saying it. He was a good high school quarterback, and then I was like, wow, he was, I think it's a 3 or 4-star recruit. I was like, I'd love for him to go to Washington State. And he went to visit. I was like, you're going to visit Washington? And he visited Washington, not like this. No, he didn't visit the state like Washington and Washington State and all the schools in Washington. He just UW. So that hurt. That hurt. That's like whenever, like I told you, like the last 3 drafts, there's corners I wanted the Steelers to draft, and then they all went to an AFC North rival. But regardless, the guy is good. He looks good. He totally on his career as it stands, he has a pretty good ratio of touchdowns to interceptions. I mean, if not for the 10 last year, he would be looking at an insane ratio. The guy is insane. The guy is he's playing great.
I mean, just think about the fact that he started as a true freshman at quarterback, which is hard.
Pac-12.
Yeah, which is really hard to do. Like, you basically have only a few people that actually do that. You talk about like something like a Jameis Winston or something like that, but like to start at quarterback, Rosen or whatever at UCLA means in a big conference. Like, it's one thing if you're going to do it in like a smaller kind of like conference that doesn't really do as much, call it like the MAC or something like that, but you're doing it against the teams who we thought were good, like Stanford and Oregon, UCLA, all these teams who, coming out of high school, like, yeah, you can be fantastic in high school. Like, there's always been fantastic players in high school that get to the college level, and they're like, oh, no, this is so much worse.
Yeah.
But, when he struggled last year a little bit, more touchdowns than interceptions, threw for about 3,000 yards. Like, for freshmen, that's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And this year, like you said, if Lamar Jackson didn't exist, he'd probably be the Heisman Trophy winner, but Lamar Jackson's a freak of nature that's going to break all the Tim Tebow, Cam Newton records of rushing and and passing touchdowns.
And total touchdowns, yeah. No, that's why I like how you're talking about him stepping in day one to start. That's why I like Luke Falk so much, is he's a walk-on, like complete walk-on. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool in that sense. But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, he is already up almost – he's about probably a couple games away from getting to his total yards last year. He's 2,955 last year. So
I think he's like one. I think he's one game away.
Just one.
He would have to throw for 600 yards roughly. Well, actually, he's 27 yards away from 2,300. So from there, he would have to throw about 700 yards.
I think it could happen. I'm kidding now. But
now his high.
It will happen. It will happen before that Washington State game.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine it depending on how they use him. I mean, his high in passing this year was 378 last week against Cal, where he threw for 6 touchdowns.
But he's got 4 games where he didn't throw for 200 yards.
Yeah, other than the 378, he only topped 300 one other time, and that was 304. So it'll take some work. But if he has a couple back to back, like maybe 310, 320 kind of deal, and really gets up there, I mean, yeah, he might. He probably will break last year's. Right? I mean, he already dismantled the touchdown amount he had last year. He doubled it.
Might get to close to 45 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 34 currently. He would need 11 more in that stretch. He would need. I think they have 3 games left. He'd have to average about 4, roughly, at least. And that obviously that wouldn't even make it. So he would That would by one, but I mean,
and he's got 4 games where it's at least 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Yeah, he's got his high so far, like we said, was 6. He did it twice. 2 games where he threw for 6 and no picks. He threw for 5 in week 2 against Idaho, 4 against Portland State. Some tougher opponents he threw for 3. I mean, that's still good, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely get to 45. I mean, in a stretch of games, he had 12, 15, 17 in 4 games. That's pretty great.
Yeah, so he gets 45 passing, and he's got 4 rushing. If he gets 1 more, that's 50 total touchdowns.
Yeah, he's chasing the total. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty really good thing. He'll finish second probably in the Heisman, and
unfortunately, unless somehow Lamar Jackson just tails off and has a horrible
he can break his leg next week. He's still winning the Heisman.
That's I mean if something was to happen to him where he was missed his last few games, I feel like if he got hurt in the last game, he still got it.
I think he can break his leg next week. He's still the Heisman winner.
Well, I mean, like if he stops having production and then Jake Browning just does something amazing those last few weeks.
Maybe.
I mean, there's a scenario in which he could win it, but I still, I mean, knock on wood, we don't want anybody get hurt.
Right.
But yeah, I still see Lamar Jackson.
But I think Jake Browning is going to be a top quarterback prospect in the draft next year.
Well, he's 6'2". He's 209. He's probably got to put some size on.
He's only a junior. I don't think he's going to declare.
No.
As a junior.
I mean, Luke Falk he's still talking about not declaring, and he's getting close to his last year. So I mean, you have 2 really good quarterbacks in one state, that probably want to keep playing one another. But Jake Browning, I mean, he'll probably need to put a little size on. That's still small for an NFL quarterback.
Right.
6'2" is a little short for an NFL quarterback too. So, I mean, even though that's tall for most things in life. So he'll have to put some size on, but he's definitely a prospect that you would look at for the NFL. I mean, he's got the pocket mobility, not like runner's mobility, but he's got the ability to move around in the pocket and create new passing lanes and his vision and stuff. And he's got a great arm.
Yeah, and the same thing could be possibly said about Lamar Jackson as well, because both of these guys are sophomores.
Yeah.
I have a friend.
They could possibly enter the draft at the same time. I think it might happen for Lamar Jackson, but I don't know about.
I have
Jake
a friend
Browning.
that doesn't think Lamar Jackson is going to be anything in the NFL. Anything more than a special teamer.
I think it's. Oh, that's kind of harsh.
He's pretty blunt. Yeah.
You think what?
He says he doesn't think he's going to be anything more than a special teamer.
No, that dude is the closest thing I've seen to Michael Vick in college.
He doesn't have as pure of an arm as Vick did.
That's fine.
Vick
Michael
had
Vick had
one
a
of the
freak
best
arm.
throwing arms of any mobile quarterback ever. In my opinion, he's the second best left-handed mobile quarterback of all time. I mean, left-handed quarterback in general. I put Steve Young and then Michael Vick, but
sure.
I think for mobile quarterback in NFL history, he has the best arm of any of them because that guy had a laser.
But I mean, at least Michael Vick was never accurate. At least with Lamar Jackson,
he's accurate enough. And again, he's accurate in college football for Louisville.
He's 60% basically.
Yeah, but we'll see when if he gets to the NFL where exactly he sits. Right. A lot of things can happen from here to then.
He's going to go to the Browns because they're going to have the number 1 pick for like 10 straight years.
Leave the Browns alone.
Okay,
all right,
the Browns. Okay,
Jeremiah, it's your turn. We're not going to get on the Browns.
Calm down about the Browns now. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about Melvin Gordon, the running back of the San Diego Chargers, and he practically played his best game
of his career.
And man, oh man, he has been a beast this year. We thought he was looked at as a bust last year after having horrific rookie year. He looked like he didn't have anything explosiveness like he had in Wisconsin, but it looks like it has finally come together for him in the second year, and that's huge for the Chargers. He did have a string of games where he didn't have a lot of yards, but he did have a lot of touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And he's finally putting it all together in the mid-season when the most important time. And the question for this is Melvin Gordon for real, or is he just a flash in the pan, or is he a legit running back?
I think he's finally starting to put it together. Yeah. I think he's finally starting to get consistent production, even with a team that's playing as badly in terms of their win-loss record as the Chargers have this year. And I think last year was just a tough year for him. He was injured. He got off to a slow start. And I think, we're finally seeing what the Chargers really intended on when they drafted him.
Yeah, because when he was at Wisconsin, Melvin Gordon was a beast. One of the best college running backs when he was there. And, he finally had 196 yards. Like, he had that big game finally. And he's had 9 touchdowns this year, so he's heavily involved in this offense. So I think as long as he keeps running this way for the Chargers, I think he's for real, and I think he's on his way to becoming a top running back in this league. He's not quite there yet, but he's on his way. Yeah,
and you talk about with Melvin Gordon, he's had the really good games back-to-back, 196 and 111, but throughout the whole season, he's averaging 4 yards a rush, which is good enough as a running back, you're going to have good games, you're going to have bad games, but he's 4 yards per carry, which is, upper level in the NFL. Like, it's when you hit 3 and below is when, you kind of look at, you get some fluke runs. It doesn't really matter. Or doesn't, the numbers kind of balance out like that. But he had the good games against Denver. Denver's a really, really good defense, so that gives you some hope. And like I said, I think he's just kind of figuring stuff out. Like before that, he had 94 yards against Denver before that. So he's had back-to-back averaging 100 yards per game against the Broncos. Like I said, he was injured last year. I think it's just basically the thing where now he's healthy and the Chargers have a little bit of momentum. Phillip Rivers is an elite quarterback in the NFL still. You had, just the team kind of coming together. They're only 4-5, but they seem always to be in the, game and everything else like that. So I think he is for real. It just took him a second to actually get to this level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you on that. I think he had to get some more things together. You have people that have really slow rookie years sometimes, and they get that second year behind him, and they really start producing. So I think that's what we're seeing with him.
It's amazing how we saw like an incredible rookie year from Todd Gurley and a terrible rookie year from Melvin Gordon. This year, it's reversed.
Right.
So I just think that's amazing. Even though Todd Gurley, I still think he's a top running back in this league. It tells you a lot. It tells you that football team is a team sport.
Well, yeah, and also you have the difference of the quarterbacks.
That too. It tells you a lot, the differences of the systems that these two running backs are in. Like, it really matters, the system that you're in.
Yeah, and Melvin Gordon also, he has, a lot of receptions, 28 receptions for a running back, so that'll help, in everything else. But, okay, we're going to go on to the last one, and I'm going to talk about the Detroit Lions, a team that, sort of like the San Diego Chargers, has always been in the games that they've been playing. They're not exactly a team that, is up the upper echelon, kind of in the Dallas Cowboys or the New England Patriots kind of thing, but they're a team nonetheless. It's 5-4 right now. They're second in the NFC North, but they keep slowly progressing. They're looking a little bit better each week. They're only half a game behind Minnesota, who seems to be falling off a little bit. You had Norv Turner leaving. They've lost 4 games, the Lions have. They lost to the Titans, the Packers, the Bears, and the Texans. Not exactly the best losses to have, but if you take all of those things into account, all the losses into account, they've only lost by 18 total points.
Yeah, they're losing really
games.
Close games, and they've literally trailed in every one of their games.
Right. And you looked at something like with Matt Stafford, he's somebody who has become a little bit better than he was in the past, be it the fact that he doesn't have to rely on one guy, because I've heard people make that argument to where it's basically one of those things of, you have someone who's so uberly talented like Calvin Johnson, you have to get him the ball to where now he's just like, okay, I just need to see who's open now. Because if you look at what he's been doing, passing yards, he's top 7 in the NFL. Touchdowns, he's top 5. He's top 5 as far as quarterback rating. He's become a lot more reliable of a quarterback this year. Running back situation's kind of been one of those you kind of have to kind of fill in a little bit. You don't have as much confidence in Theo Riddick. You had Amir Abdullah to start the year. It's kind of been committee a little bit by that.
Mm-hmm. Theo Riddick's much more of a receiving back in a sense, but he's been kind of their leading rusher lately.
Right, and you had Matt Jones, who started off the year strong, kind of regressed a little bit since then. But
Marvin Jones?
Marvin
Matt
Jones.
Jones is on the Redskins.
Yeah, Matt Jones. Sorry.
Or Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Sorry, I dropped that in there.
But you have this thing now with the Detroit Lions. So, like I said, they're not far off at all in the NFL as far as their record goes in the division. Now you have things with the Jaguars coming up, the Vikings who have fallen back to earth, the Saints who, Drew Brees is going to throw for 1,000 yards a game, but the defense is just
not as good as it needs to be.
Just so like bad.
That. Yeah.
And the Bears. So the next 4 weeks, hypothetically, they could win all 4 of those games. And let's say they just win 2 of those games. Now you're 7-6. You have a very solid chance of making the playoffs and winning the division.
I agree with you on that. I think they've been playing, at least winning the games they need to win.
Right.
And then definitely in a year that they need to do that, because it's definitely a weaker year in the NFC North.
Right.
The Packers aren't the Packers of normal. Excuse me. The Bears aren't winning very many games. The Vikings are now slowly kind of sliding down.
They look like an average team.
Yeah, they're on a big drop down. So yeah, I think they're definitely taking full advantage of the division in which they are in this year.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys both 100%. All right, we're going to take a last break. In doing so, we're going to come back and we're going to do our wide lefts, Wednesday segment, which we just get some laughs before leaving for the day. So we'll do that real quick and be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. It's time to end the show as we do every Wednesday, and that is with Wide Left Wednesday. And that's going to be some funnies that we like to talk about. So I'm going to start. I'm going to talk because I'm going to control this. I'm going to control the jokes made about my team, my favorite team. And we're going to talk about the Steelers and the failed onside kick that I'm sure many football fans saw on Sunday, a kick that is called the Rabona, I think that's what it is. It is a kick that in college, Chris Boswell did actually successfully execute when he was at Rice. So, excuse me. It's not. I mean, I've seen it done before. I personally, I don't care if you do that kind of kick. What my thing is sitting there watching the game. The way that game was going up until the fourth, they had 12 penalties. At one point, they had more penalty yards than offensive yards. It was a tough game. You know, Ben again loses another game, coming back from injury, possibly too soon, however you want to look at it. But you put it in the terms of how I saw the game going. I've never seen the Steelers get an onside kick, never successfully, as long as I've been a fan, so about literally like 15 years now. I've never seen them get one. Personally, if I'm them, I'm not playing games. Just kick the onside kick. Either you're going to get it or not. The percentages are there. I get it that kick he did it in practice. It's successful. It catches them off guard. But you did so many things wrong. I'm not surprised you failed at that also. Like, the game was probably one of the worst and most frustrating games as a Steeler fan I've ever watched of that team. And so that kick personified the game. And yes, I was frustrated, but you live another day. I've seen him do it, and when you do it right, it's actually pretty, it looks successful if you go and get it, because it kind of angles towards the sideline where it doesn't look like it's going to get 10, but it might just get 10, so you don't know if you should go get it. And that's kind of the position in which I saw the Rice game. The guys didn't know if you should get it, and then they went and grabbed it. So personally, just kick the ball, man. Just kick it.
The best was Ben Roethlisberger's face after that. He's like, oh, my God.
Understandable. I mean, no offense. I love that man, but he had no room to talk. He could have played. I mean, again, he's hurt. I don't know if he should have been out there, whether he was. It's not like, yes, Boswell didn't do a great job on that kick, but there was a lot of issues throughout that game. Fourth quarter Ben, though, that wasn't the issue.
Worst kick of all time.
Oh, no. I've seen much worse than that.
Well,
I've seen an onside kick where the guy went for a normal one and missed.
I haven't seen that.
I'll find a video for you one time.
Okay.
Yeah. Boswell, again, I've seen him do it. I've seen the videos of him doing it, and apparently, I mean, Tomlin's not a dumb coach. People don't like to give him credit for a lot of stuff, and people think he's not as good coach.
I think Tom's a great coach.
I do too, but I think sometimes they think he gets a little too tricky with some of his tricks. He would have done it if he didn't see them completed at one point or another. So, personally, I'm over it. It's silly, but not the worst kick I've ever seen. Anyways, on to you, Jeremiah, for your wide left.
All right, cool. So, Muhammad Wilkerson, he did miss a walkthrough before the team's Week 7 game against the Ravens. This is the New York Jets defensive lineman here. And apparently, I guess earlier this week, or Monday, I should say, he missed a planned gathering or a meeting in the defensive room. That was supposed.
Team meeting, yeah.
It was a team meeting. He missed that. What's funny about that is the team actually had a thing planned to celebrate Wilkinson's 27th birthday. They had a cake in there, and he missed it. And I wonder if they still ate the cake. I would
have if I was Bowles. I would have literally took a piece. I'd be like, anybody else want some? And no, and I would have went flip and throw it on the ground and be like, he can clean it up with his fine.
Yeah.
He can clean it up with the fine money he
can buy his own cake.
Yeah, he can get his own cake and step on it on your way out. Yeah, that's silly. That's kind of ironic. I mean, I don't know if he forgot his own birthday or what, or if he's just – I think there's some issues with – like Sheldon Richardson was saying, he's kind of the odd man out right now with the D-line as it stands because the rotation and stuff. And I don't know if there's some, we've heard a lot of stuff with Wilkerson before they ended up paying him. You and I thought he was gone, because of all the issues we've heard there so far. So I wonder if that's the same case. But all I know is the Jets are having problems all over.
Yeah, they're a bad team. Bad team. That's all I can say.
All right, Anthony, last but not least.
All right, so Travis Kelce.
I like Travis Kelce usually.
I do too. Tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Reality TV star.
Catching Kelce.
Yeah, okay.
He.
You know it. I'm glad you know it.
I do.
Is it your favorite show?
I've never seen the show.
I
just know it exists.
I always forget that
I've seen
exists.
it once. It was on my friend's house. His sister was watching it. And I mean, to be fair, Travis Kelce's a decent-looking guy. Like, I understand why he had a dating show.
Right.
And he's a professional athlete.
Is he?
Makes sense.
Is he Gronk level on that show? Like, just dumb
He's a little
as
weird,
box
but
of
no,
rocks?
he's not that dumb. No,
Okay.
he's clever. He's just childish
Yeah.
sometimes. I was like the first episode. So I was sitting there eating, and it was on, and it was talking it was like the introduction of the women
Gotcha.
and stuff. So he makes stupid jokes sometimes, but he's not Gronk level. No.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, I don't think anyone can be up to Gronk level.
Not even his
brothers. Move on.
So Kelce, got a flag against Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you watch it, the video is great, by the way. The video is the best part about it because
I
he's
love it, yeah.
yelling at the referee like, why? Referee throws a flag. He's like, what happened? Why? I don't. What? Oh, you want to throw a flag at me? Fine. I got to
Well,
tell.
it's because what it was is he was trying to talk to him, and he wouldn't look at him. He wouldn't answer him. So I think he yelled something offensive at him, or some kind of cuss word or something that got him to look at him. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, he must have said something. He threw a flag.
And then he threw the towel at him, and the ref, who didn't have any more flags,
Yeah, you gotta
threw
throw
his
your
helmet, threw his hat up in the air,
Yeah.
and then you get number 22 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's pantomiming, throwing stuff.
I like how they were doing that. The Jaguars are like, they're throwing up
Get
the
him,
flag.
get him.
Dude, the best thing, because I heard someone say this, and it's the funniest thing. It's like, okay, imagine you know nothing about football. Imagine you're just like,
You're
suck.
just
It's
watching
like,
people
watch
do
this
that?
play. It's just, let's throw a yellow flag, let's throw a towel, let's throw a hat, just throw everything in the air. This is the NFL. This is what we do. We're just throwing everything around.
Yeah.
And Kelce after the game did the whole, I shouldn't have done this. I feel very ashamed. I can't throw my flag at the ref, but we know this all day long. Stuff like that, doing the whole.
That voice.
That voice, though.
He becomes the first player so far since the rule change to be thrown out after two personal fouls, two unsportsmanlike. So
Right.
But I guess you could say the refs caught Kelce.
Oh my God, Jeremiah!
We
need to stop the show now. Just because you said that?
But anyways, I love Travis Kelce. I love what he did. Never change. Keep doing what you're doing.
On that note, it's time to end the show.
Yes, it is.
Jeremiah, you just sit there. No, just kidding. That was a
Shame.
good. I like corny jokes like that sometimes. Anyways, we'll be back tomorrow, all three of us, and we're going to preview the Thursday night football game. We're going to talk college football, I'm sure, and anything and everything else that comes up in between because we have the final drive as well. So until then, we take a 24-hour break. Until then, we'd like to thank you, as always, for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. I am Alex.
I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we thank you for listening, and we will see you tomorrow. You guys have a good rest of your day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.